Hello everybody, welcome to lesson 3. We're going to be learning about lines and solutions. So what is the y-intercept? Let's look at this blue line. The y-intercept is the point when x equals 0. So it would be this blue point here. Y equals 4x plus 23. What is the slope? The slope is always the number in front of the x, so that would be 4. And the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So if we plug in 0, we get 23. And the y-intercept is always a point, so it would be 0, 23. What is the slope? -5, and the y-intercept, 0, 12. This is the slope formula. What is the slope of the line that passes through the points 9, -6 and 12, 30? So every point is x, y. The x goes first and the y goes second. So here, y2 is 30, y1 is -6, x2 is 12, and x1 is 9. This could also be correct if we said y2 was -6, y1 was 30, x2 is 9, and x1 is 12. It doesn't matter which point is 2 and which point is 1, as long as you're consistent. So the slope here would be 30 minus -6 over 12 minus 9. Be careful with the negatives. 30 minus -6 is 36 over 3, which is 12. A line has a slope of 2 and passes through the point 4, 6. What is the y-intercept? So every line can be written in the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So here we have the slope, and we have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So we could plug in all of those values. So if y equals mx plus b, in this case 6 equals m 2 x 4 plus b. So if we solve for b equals -2. So we know that the equation of this line is y equals 2x minus 2, and the y-intercept is 0, -2. A line has a y-intercept of 0, -6 and passes through the point 1, -2. What is the slope? Well, we could just use our slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. -6 minus -2 is -4, and 0 minus 1 is -1, so the slope is 4. What is the equation of the line that passes through the points 4, 8 and 1, -1? Well, in the first example over here, we're able to find the equation of the line with the slope and a point. So here, we could find the slope and then use one of those points to find the y-intercept to find the equation of the line. So let's find slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is going to be 9 over 3, so that means the slope is 3. Now, if we have the equation y equals mx plus b, we have a point x, y, 4, 8, and we have m, which is 3. So we could plug in all of those values. If we solve for b, we get b equals -4. So now we have our m and our b value. So we could just plug those in to find the equation of the line. Y equals 3x minus 4. This is the same question, but with different points. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. -8 minus -2 is -6 over +6, so that means the slope is -1. Y equals mx plus b. We have a point x, y, and you could use either point, whichever one you think would make the math easier. So I'm going to plug in 4, -2. So -2 equals m, which is -1, times x, which is 4, plus b. This is going to be -4. -2 equals -4 plus b. That means b equals 2. And if m is -1 and b is 2, the equation of the line is y equals -x or -1x plus 2. The line y equals 3x minus 8 passes through the point 6, k. What is the value of k? So every point is x, y. X goes first, Y goes second. So we could plug in 6 for X and K for Y. So K equals 3 times 6 minus 8. 18 minus 8 is 10. The equation Y equals K over X passes through the point 10, 8. What is the value of K? Notice that this isn't a line. However, this strategy of plugging in points, X, Y, always works. So if X is 10 and Y is 8, we could just plug those in. 8 equals K over 10. If you multiply both sides by 10, you get K equals 80. The equation Y equals Kx plus 1 passes through the point K, 10. What is one possible value for K? So we know that this point is X, Y, so we're just going to do the same thing that we did in the previous questions. So Y is 10 equals K, X is K, plus 1. K times K is K squared, plus 1 equals 10. Subtract 1 to the other side, so 9 equals K squared. Then if we square root both sides, we get K equals 3 or negative 3. So one possible value of K would be 3. Perpendicular lines. What is the reciprocal of 4 over 3? So the reciprocal of any number is just 1 over that number, or in easier terms, you're just flipping it. So that would be 3 over 4. 2 is the same as 2 over 1, so if we flip it, then we get 1 over 2. 1/3, if we flip it, we get 3 over 1, which is 3. What is the relationship between the slopes of perpendicular lines? So the slope of perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal. Now, what is the slope of the line perpendicular to the line above? So if this line has a slope of 3, a line perpendicular to it will have the negative reciprocal. So if we take the negative reciprocal of that, that's our slope. A line perpendicular to the line above passes through the point 8, 15. What is the equation of the line? So we know that this line has a slope of negative 1/2, and the line perpendicular to that will have the negative reciprocal of that. So if we take the negative of a negative, we get positive, and the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So we get the slope of that line is 2. And we know that every line is y equals mx plus b. We have x, y here, so we can just plug those in. 15 equals mx plus b. This is going to be 16. B is going to be negative 1. And we have m and b, so the equation of this line is y equals 2x minus 1. Line K passes through these 2 points. Line Q is perpendicular to line K and passes through 3, negative 10. What is the equation of line Q? So we know that line Q and K are perpendicular. So if we find the slope of line K and we take the negative reciprocal of that, we could find the slope of line Q. And with that, we have a point x, y, and we'll be able to solve for b, the y-intercept, and then we'll have the equation of the line. So let's do that. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's 2 over 4 minus negative 2 is 6. So 2 over 6 is the slope, which is the same thing as 1 over 3. So the slope, m, of line K is 1 over 3. We know the slope of the line perpendicular to that is going to be the negative reciprocal. So we have a negative, and then the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3. So the slope of line Q equals negative 3. Y equals mx plus b. We have y is negative 10, m is negative 3, x is 3 plus b. This can be negative 10 equals negative 9 plus b. B equals negative 1. And we have the slope is negative 3. The y-intercept is negative 1. So y equals negative 3x minus 1 is our equation. What is the solution? So if we look at this graph here, we have a red function and a blue function. A solution is simply when the two equations touch, or more specifically, when any equation in a system touches. It doesn't just have to be a parabola or a line or two lines. It's pretty much when any equation touches in a system. Note that the following only applies to lines. So the reason that these rules only apply to lines is because lines are very specific in that they have a slope and a y-intercept. So if we look at same slope, different y-intercept, that's going to be, if we have a graph here, the same slope and different y-intercept. So the y-intercepts are different, but the slopes are same. That means these two lines are going to be parallel and they're never going to touch. So that means no solutions. Same slope and same y-intercept. That's like having two lines right on top of each other. That means they're going to have infinitely many solutions. And anytime you have a different slope, it's going to be one solution. That's like having two lines like this. This is our only solution. So let's look at some examples. How many solutions are there to the system of equations above? So there's the same slope, different y-intercept, they're going to be parallel, that means no solutions. How many solutions are there to this system? Different slope, automatically one solution. This one, same slope, different y-intercept, 0. Same slope, same y-intercept, infinite. It's pretty much the same line. Same line. How many solutions are there to this one? We have a different slope. -2 is not the same slope as 2, so that means it's going to be 1. This one is same slope, different y-intercept, 0 solutions. How many solutions are there to this system? Well, you have the same slope and a different y-intercept. That means there's going to be 0. Oh. If the equation above has no solutions, what is the value of a? Well, we know that if there's no solutions, the slope has to be the same. The slope of this equation is 6. That means the slope of this equation also has to be 6. So a is 6. How many solutions are there to this system? Well, it's the same slope and same y-intercept. So there's an infinite amount. If the equations above have infinitely many solutions, what is the value of a and b? Well, we could expand this out to become y equals ax plus ab. And we have our other equations, y equals 4x plus 8. If there's infinitely many solutions, that means we have to have the same slope and the same y-intercept. Well, the slope of this line is 4, so that means we know a has to be 4. So we have y equals 4x plus 4 times b. We know the y-intercept is 8, so that means this part has to be 8. So 4b equals 8, that means b equals 2. So a is 4 and b is 2. What does finding the solution mean? So if we have two equations here, and this is our solution, finding the solution is finding the x and y coordinates of the solution. So before we were talking about how many times two equations touch. Now we're going to be finding the exact point at which they touch. What is the solution to the system above? So if we have two lines, both in terms of y equals 4x plus 4 and y equals 2x plus 8, if we know that they are both y, we could set them equal to each other. So 4x plus 4 equals 2x plus 8. So we want to get all the x's on one side and the numbers on the other. So we could subtract 2x from both sides. So we get 2x plus 4 equals 8. Then we could subtract 4 to the other side. 2x equals 4. X equals 2. But that isn't just the point. We need an actual point here, an x comma y coordinate point. So what we could do is we know that this solution occurs when x equals 2. So we gotta plug it back into each of these. And if they're the same value, then we know it's correct because they intersect at the same point. So when x is 2, for this equation, we get 2 times 2 is 4 plus 8, y would be 12. And if we plug it in here, we get 4 times 2 is 8 plus 4 is 12. So we know that the solution here occurs at x comma y, 2 comma 12. Let's look at adding equations. So how can we add the equations below? So if we add these two equations, what we're going to do is we're going to add these two, and these two. So 5 plus 8 equals 13. Now, how do we add equations with lines? So what we can do is we could add these. 2x plus 3x is 5x. 4y plus negative 4y is nothing, is 0. And then we have 15 plus 5 is 20. So x equals 4. That's a really good trick to finding the solution of two lines quickly without having to solve for y, like this example, and setting them equal to each other. So when x equals 4, we could plug that back into our equation. So 2 times 4 is 8 plus 4y equals 15. That means 4y equals 7. Y equals 7 over 4. So the solution here occurs at 4, 7 over 4. What is the solution to the system above? So in this example over here, it was really simple and easy because we had a plus 4y and a negative 4y. So we were just able to add them and it canceled out nicely. Here, we want to make it so that something like that happens, where we have a plus something and a minus that exact same thing. So in this case, we could multiply the first equation, the whole thing, by 2. And when we do that, our top equation is going to look like this. Negative 2x plus 6y equals 28. And our bottom equation is going to be 2x plus 4y equals 12. I did that because I want to make the 2x on bottom equal to a negative 2x on top, so that when we add the two equations, they cancel out. So then we were left with 10y equals 40. That means y equals 4. And we have the y coordinate, but we need to find the x coordinate, so we could plug it back in here. So 2x plus 4 times 4 is 16 equals 12. That means 2x equals negative 4 and x equals negative 2. So we know the solution occurs at negative 2, 4. What is the value of 7x in the system above? So a lot of times SAT questions, they won't even ask for the solution. They will just ask for a certain value. In this case, it's 7x. So if we add the two equations, we get 7x equals 20. We're done. We don't even need to solve for x. We don't need to solve for y. We're done. What is the value of 8y? So if we add the two equations, the negative 3x and 3x cancel out. We're left with 4y equals 7. And if 4y equals 7, then double that, 8y equals 14. What is the value of x minus 2y in the system above? So if we add the two equations, negative 2x plus 3x is x, and negative 5y plus 3y is negative 2y. And then 9 plus 4 is 13. So x minus 2y is 13. All right, hope you learned something.